Okay. Well, welcome everyone. It's good to see you today. Now, as this week is still in the spirit of the question that was raised last Tuesday by Katie and Frank about weird thoughts, how to handle weird thoughts, thought storms, and so forth. Today, the topic is about strange phenomena that might arise during meditation practice, which is also relatively common. Depending on the personality that is meditating, depending on the meditator, we might experience all kinds of different, apparitions or visions, feelings, hallucinations, whether visual or auditory. We might feel like strange movements in the body, like physical jerks or something like this. It suddenly rips you out of your concentration. You might feel things that are not visible to the eye or not actually there. If you're opening your eyes, you look around, you might see lights, different lights, also very common. And so some personality types, they get really, really caught up with this, and others get a bit less caught up with this. Now, it's important to kind of cover that topic because many meditators go through this, particularly as your concentration improves and you're able to kind of stay with one process or one experience, one facet of experience for a long time. So when the mind converges into itself, when you stay focused on one object for a longer time, then your consciousness experiences a sort of a shift. Sometimes it's referred to as the mind is dropping into a deeper kind of experience, a more calm, a more centered type of experience. And that leads to the dissolution of the senses, the external senses. It's kind of the same thing that happens when you go to sleep, right? And when you go to sleep, then usually you'll notice a dissolution of the external senses. The consciousness is withdrawing from our external senses. So what are external senses? Are the ears, eyes, nose, tongue, the body, the feelings of the body. And thought as well. Even when you go to sleep, also there's a moment when thought dissolves. There's a kind of a blackout. And then usually very fast after that, the dreaming starts. Particularly in the later stages of the night when you're already well rested. But so that there's this dissolution of the sense activity. We forget our body. The body becomes paralyzed at night, it goes to sleep. So that you can go onto your dreaming adventures and you wouldn't use the body actually, you wouldn't enact actually what you're dreaming, right? If you're climbing a mountain, all of a sudden you're starting to fall out of your bed and start to climb your bookshelf and stuff like that, that wouldn't be too good. So you need to kind of have a paralyzed body, and we need to get out of our senses so that actually we can recover, we can rest. Body and mind can restore. And a similar thing, in fact, actually identical, is happening when you go into deeper meditation, only that you're maintaining your awareness as this is happening. And so when you go to the realm of sleeping, for all those of you who have tried to fall asleep consciously before, you'll notice that you go through various kind of stages. And it starts with the so-called hypnagogic state. Before you drop off into sleep, you enter the so-called hypnagogic state. And in that hypnagogic state, you have all these weird kind of thoughts and imaginations, and you find yourself in weird places, and you kind of start to dream a little bit. But half of you is still awake. And half of you on the verge of sleeping, right? And you get all these kind of weird things coming into your mind, and the mind becomes really random. You're accessing different areas of the brain. There's a different kind of thought patterns. The mind, you're entering more the kind of creative side of the mind. logic and this kind of linear thinking stops. It becomes really kind of weird. And so in a similar way, when you're meditating, that can happen too. So suddenly you might experience weird things, like crystal clear images of yourself being somewhere else. And it feels very real, like suddenly you're somewhere else. You're standing on a meadow or something. And then suddenly, whoop, you're back on the meditation mat. And guys, I'm not talking, this is really, really important to mention, I'm not talking about just imagining yourself on a meadow. I mean, it's like a crisp, real experience of suddenly being somewhere else. And it might be really confusing at first, because when you come back, you're still not fully in the body, so it might be really confusing, particularly if these things happen in the beginning. You're like, whoa, what was that? And then you need some time to orient yourself, reorient yourself. And with that, of course, you go back into your senses for a beginner very often, and then there's, again, you have to go through the calming process and let go of the body again. You're in this kind of it's like a borderline. You're almost dropping into a deeper state where you're letting go of the body, but not yet kind of bouncing back and forth from the reality of your senses, the fact that, okay, I'm sitting in a yellow room right now doing my meditation on Phuket Island. That is a very sensual experience. And when your senses stop working, then you're not on Phuket Island anymore. You're not in a room. You're not having a body. So all the kind of points of reference that we have when we are in the body, they are gone. There's no such thing as being in a room with other people. That experience is gone. And when there's this onset of the experience, very often there's also an experience of lights, a lot of light, different kind of lights. Colored lights, light specks behind your eyes, closed eyelids, becoming more and more intense and clear over time, turning into fully blown images or even scenes, three-dimensional scenes, as I just mentioned. So how to deal with lights, for instance. What to do when there are lights. Many people, their reaction to these lights are, what does it mean? That's very common. I had that too. This idea that, oh, there's a purple light. Now what does the color purple mean? Why purple? Why orange? So you start to get kind of lost there. You forget your breath. You forget the stillness of the mind, and thinking slowly comes back. You start to figure things out. The mind is restless again. It needs now to figure something out. Or it gets stuck with this. It wants to kind of hold on to this experience. Wow, amazing light. And then you kind of want to hold it. And by that, there's tension arising. There's that one moment of craving that arises, and it leads immediately to tension. You want to hold something that is in its nature impermanent, and it drifts out of your hands. You feel this kind of very subtle arising of unease in your being again. But beginners don't notice that. They're far too intrigued by the idea of finding out what the light actually means. Well, it doesn't mean anything. It's just, this experience is just like this. And it means what you think it means. For some people say, wow, my heart chakra is opening. I see green light. This means my heart is finally opening. Who knows? All that we really know is that there is an experience of green light. That is what we really can know. We don't know what that means. Right? Suddenly you have a weird feeling of your body becoming very light and lifting up, floating into space above you, or sinking into the ground. What does it mean? Well, we don't know what it means, but there's just that feeling of the body floating. That's it. There's no need to make meaning. There's no need to fabricate any particular meaning into this. But it is very intriguing. I remember once when I was asking my own teacher, was seeing something about yellow light, and I asked him, what does it mean? And he looked at me and he said, what does it mean? It immediately kind of pulled me back onto the ground, like, wow, yeah, that's that one. You want to know what it means. And what is it that wants to know what it means? Well, an insecure little sense of self that wants to kind of be in control. It wants to be in charge. It's afraid of the unknown. So it wants to categorize and label and judge things, so it feels like it made it known. Now I know what that is. I know how to call it, so I'm safe. So it's just an aspect of fear. That's trying to find something out. What is this? And that's what usually accompanies these unusual and strange phenomena that arise during meditation practice. What is this? Why does it happen? What does it mean? So you want to try in your meditation practice not to follow this path of trying to inject meaning into experiences, but simply remain open to those experiences. Just noticing, okay, this is happening, and then gently returning to the task at hand. Because when you see the light, that means in that moment your attention is gone from breath to light. Right? So there's a shift of attention. It's like, woo, light. Well, you forgot the breath just now. So gently return to the breath. And of course, the more you do that, the more strange experiences will arise as the senses are dissolving. And now that you know what that is, it's just the senses dissolving and the mind dropping a little bit deeper. It is accompanied by unusual phenomena. That's all right. Just come back to the task at hand. That's not easy. Particularly as your mind becomes stronger, also these experiences become more enticing. Like, wow, check out this one. And you're like, no, I'm going to stick with my breath. But how about that one? And it's even more amazing. Like feelings and visions and so forth. You might hear even voices kind of whispering into your ear, like calling your name and all kinds of stuff. Now what is that spirits? No, it's just an experience of hearing my name whispered into my ear. I don't know if it's spirits or not. I don't particularly care. I want to come back to the breath. That's what matters. Like if you get into this kind of spirit track, then you make a reality for yourself, and then you probably freak out. Or you start to get into some conversation with the spirit, and yeah. So we can get lost in that track. And yes, that is also the same track that goes into psychic experiences. So there is some validity to that. Actually, the mind becomes more sensitive. It starts to pick up things that are usually beyond its reach when it is heavily distracted and full of noise. So you might start to pick up things, but the problem with these things is it's unreliable. You often only know in retrospect whether it was correct or not. Like you might have prophetic dreams at night. You only know that it has been a prophetic dreams when it turns out to be exactly the same scene that you're going through this day. And you're like, whoa, I dreamt that just like that. I dreamt it last night. I even wrote it down in my dream diary. It's precisely that same scene. It was a prophetic dream, but how can you know? You only know once it occurs in real life. It's unreliable. You don't really know which one is a prophetic dream, which one is not. Which one is a prophetic experience, a vision, a deeper connection to a spirit, a dead relative visiting you. You don't really know. And I think this is a general problem in this world. There's too many people who don't really know, but they think they do. And that's the cause of many wars, many conflicts. Because we all think we know. I know. I know what meditation is. I know what Buddhism is. I know what Christianity is. What, do you believe in God? There is no God. Well, how do you know? How do you know that there is a God? How do you know what happens after death? It's incredible. There's so many experts that all know what happens after death. Sometimes people ask me also, as if I was like, I'm teaching meditation, so somehow I'm supposed to know what happens after death. I don't know. How would I? Yeah, I don't even know what I'm going to dream tonight. I have no idea how I'm going to feel like in 2 minutes. I don't even know that. And what comes into my head in a minute? What kind of thought? What I'm going to say next? I even don't know that. Fortunately, I don't care. Because if I would care, I would freak out. Because I constantly would have to know what's going on next. What's going to happen next? Well, I'm okay with knowing what's happening now. And then the element of honesty comes in. It's very strong again. The whole path is in honesty. It lies in honesty. To honestly see, it's an orange color, and I just know it's an orange color, period. I don't know what else it is. It's just an orange color. Or just a nice feeling, period. Just hearing my name whispered into my ear. You might even open your eyes to check if there's not really anyone standing there. It happens very often in the beginning. You need to become very stable in your practice so that you really don't care anymore. You have to let go of everything. Then there is a gradual going deeper into more and more bliss, more and more light. But we're very tense about phenomena, like very tense about the senses. We're grasping, holding on to these experiences continuously. And so it leads to all kinds of tension. As long as we're holding on to our senses or to experiences in the mind, we are being tense. And some people habitually, they hold on to these experiences of light and visions and voices and so forth, and then they form and shape out of that a personality, an entire person, a persona. Then you have your perfect spiritual ego. And where there is an ego, there can be hurt. There is already pain. So I know what meditation means. I'm very good at meditation, and all this these are just opinions. They're just thoughts. The key is to recognize them as what they really are, just thoughts. But we tend to fall for these, right? We tend to fall for the apparitions. We tend to fall for the visions and the feelings and the experiences. We fall for it. We make more out of it than there actually is. Forget the vision. We do this with normal people that we meet on the street. We impute our opinions into them. We label them, we judge them, and then we think, yes, the way I judge that other person, that's the way that other person actually is. Now that's an hallucination. It's right there. But it appears very real. And we can feel very righteous about it and very just. So just that we go into an action towards that person. Or you might anticipate something happening in the future. Something terrible is going to happen to me. That's a hallucination, but it is so real, it makes you feel fear right here and now. Did it go up to the point of a panic attack? And it's all just because the mind is fabricating stuff. It's hallucinating. The only difference is that we feel that this hallucination in my mind, that something is going to happen to me tomorrow, it's not really a hallucination, we think. We think, no, it's very likely though. We justify it, we make it more strong, we believe that this is the truth. But what is it really? Well, it's a thought. That's what it really is. And maybe the thought has so much strength that it turned into a feeling, an emotion, like fear. Okay, now what about the emotion? What is that? Well, it's an emotion. It's a feeling in the body. If you are looking at an emotion without adding thought, then you will notice, well, there is feelings in the body. You feel anger. Where do you feel it when you're angry? Most people feel it around the chest, the area of solar plexus, or the belly. Where do you feel fear? In your elbows? No. Do you feel it in the tip of your hair? In your nose? There's locations for emotional charge in your body, right? You feel love, kindness, happiness, joy, feeling funny, feeling silly. You feel that somewhere in the body. And if you take out the story of that feeling, now then you have just a feeling. Now that's, again, you're looking at it with honesty. A feeling in the body. That's all it is. And that can be quite liberating because it is true. Oh my God, something is going to happen to me tonight. Maybe I get a heart attack. Oh my God. Like sometimes I lie down on my left side and I feel my heartbeat boop, 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 very strongly. And I was born with a congenital disorder and my heart is actually weak. And the aorta of my heart might just rip. So when I feel my heart beat like this, for me, it immediately provokes the fear of death. It happens almost every night. Yeah, like, shit, I'm going to die. And that's not funny when it happens. It's funny now, but when it actually happens, it's not funny. But it can become funny again when I realize what's really going on. Well, the heart is beating. That's it. That's what's going on. All the other stuff is hallucination. Oh my God, I'm going to die. Well, even that is kind of true too, right? I'm going to die, yes. But then what is that implying? Oh my God, I'm going to die. It implies that death is a bad thing. That's the hallucination in it. Oh my God, something is going to happen to me. Yes, that's also true. Something is going to happen to you. To all of us, something is going to happen. And then what? It could also be, wow, something is going to happen to me. But instead it's maybe, oh my God, something is going to happen to me. Well, that's hallucination. We are projecting. And it's just that. Just thinking, feeling. The problem is we don't see it. It is left unseen. We're not knowing it as it is happening. We are consumed by it, involved in it, invested in it, caught up in it, bound up in it. That's the problem. Now that's where the real suffering and pain is. Now if you come up to the knowing quality and you simply know it for what it is, then well, it's colors, lights, shapes, sounds, feelings. Just that. This actually goes back to a direct advice of the Buddha in one of his discourses. It's called, I think, the Discourse of the Sextets. And he talks about like the six senses, and how they should be regarded. And In the sutra, it goes something like that. It says like seeing is known as just seeing. Hearing is known as just hearing. Smelling, tasting, feeling is known as just smelling, tasting, or feeling. Thinking is known as just thinking. And that's all of our experience. There is no more to it. But as soon as you buy into thoughts, as you become the thinker, you're not knowing thinking as just thinking. You become the thinker, there is trouble. It's right there. Then you're like in the bed and you feel your heart pump and you go, oh my God, I'm going to die. Now you are the thinker, you are the fear. You're riding it. You're on the fear train and you're heading towards fear country. And it's an unpleasant place to be. So what do we need to do? Hop off the fear train, stand on the platform of truth. Watch the fear train. It's just fear. Fear is like this. This is a mantra I recommend you. If you want to have any mantra or something to recite, then use this one. It is like this. It is such. Fear is like this. That is an invitation to observe. Well, how is it? Well, like this. Look, isn't it? It's not giving you this kind of pre-digested answer. Fear is bad. Now I know what fear is. It's bad. So you think you know what it is. You think it's bad. No, fear is not bad. It's not good. It is like this. Look. And well, how is it then? Well, there's thinking, and it feeds into feeling, and then the feeling feeds again into thinking. That's what's going on. Thinking and feeling. Okay. And all of a sudden you're kind of taking it apart, right? You're not seeing it as this one thing, oh my God, fear. You're taking it apart. You're looking for, is there really something like fear? You stop labeling it and you watch. It's almost like you go into a forest and you're looking for the forest. Now, where is the forest? And you take apart tree after tree, looking for the forest. Will you find it? Well, from the distance, it looked like this huge forest thing. And the closer you get, the less forest you find. And the same thing is with fear. The closer you look, the less fear you find, but the more feelings and thoughts and perceptions and physical reactions and all that kind of stuff. It's like firework. Firework is nice to watch if you're at a distance. You don't want to be in the middle of it. Right? So if you want to watch the firework of fear, you need to learn the art of watching. Now, can anyone do this just now? The answer is yes and no. You need guidance with that. It's really important. If you don't have a guide that continuously points you back to yourself, back to the knowing quality properly, from experience, then it won't really work out. Many people that watch a YouTube video, they read a nice book, and it's like, wow, it's all about consciousness. Awesome, you know. But they lack the transmission of someone that has the goods. That has to actually, there has to be some sort of transmission. Otherwise, it's nice, it's inspiring, it's a good way to spend our time at least. But it will not lead to the deepest and real results of this path. That's why guidance is important. That's why it's important to meet up in groups such as these. To sit together, to discuss, to actually work on this together. That's why I always ask in the end of the class, is there any questions? That's time for you to actually engage a direct pointing there. This is not a time to ask intellectual questions like, how many universes are there? What happens after death? Is there universe or multiverse? Is the Buddha omniscient, or is he omnipotent, or is he within us, or is he around us? Isn't it not a time for philosophical stuff like that? But it's a question for, how do I get out of suffering right now and here? How do I end stress now? If you do feel like someone has a gun pointed to your head, you have 10 minutes to live, what kind of question would you ask? Yeah, how many universes are there? It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Philosophical questions. And I don't know. How would I? All I know is this. The more I learn about the path, the less I feel that I know anything, really. And this is a very real experience. I feel like all my knowledge that I had before is slipping out of my fingers. And it's quite disturbing, to be honest. And at the other side, it's very comforting. To be okay with not knowing. But knowing this and knowing myself is it's enough. It's enough. So turning the light of awareness within with honesty, seeing the phenomena that arise for what they are with honesty is the key. Not interpreting anything, and if there is interpretation, and see that with honesty. Interpretation, this too shall pass. And you see it come and you see it go, okay. Judgment, it comes and it goes. And you got to practice that a lot. It has to become very consistent and continuous. If it is just only occasionally like, I know that thought and it comes and it goes and I'm fine. You have to do that consistently. Like really come back to the knowing again and again and again. Like, thinking again, thinking, that's thinking, feeling, thinking, feeling, seeing, feeling, thinking. You got to know this consistently. Practice throughout the day, not just that moment when before you go to bed or just after you woke up. You sit down for half an hour and you try to know yourself a little bit. It needs to become really, really consistent. It has to have a momentum. Before the knowing quality and awareness can actually get the momentum to liberate itself, which we call awakening, it has to kind of really be stabilized in this process. So you have to remember the knowing. Remember it. There is a knowing quality. Wait a second. I can also be conscious of that. I can also see that. I don't have to be that. I can also see that. And in the beginning, you feel very awfully close to the things you're looking at. And with time, you will notice more and more space and distance between the things you're looking at. And that is felt as liberating. That's not my business. After a while, the fear that you feel will feel very much like the fear that someone else feels. It's not personal anymore. It's just fear. Fear is everywhere in the world right now. There's so many people who are freaking out right now, who have a panic attack right now. So many people. Is it your business? No, right? You don't consider their fear your fear. There's distance. So you can be quite relaxed, even though they have a panic attack right now. So many car accidents right now, but it's not your car. So you're fine. No trouble. As long as it's not personal, no suffering. As soon as it becomes personal, it means you're too close, there's suffering. So seeking distance in the knowing quality is the key with like all these kind of practices. And that is just one possible solution to deal with these strange and weird phenomena that arise during meditation practice. This is one way to deal with it, okay? I'm not exhausting all ways today, but I'm giving you the most fast, most direct way. See into its truth consistently seek guidance, have a teacher that helps you and supports you with it, and you'll be just fine. Okay, so that's all that comes to mind for today. Are there any questions?